I turned 75 last spring, though sometimes my bones tell me I am much older. Still, when December arrives and the cold air carries the smell of pine trees and firewood, something in my heart wakes up. Christmas has always been my season, my time to gather the people I love, feed them, and remind them that no matter how far life scatters us, a warm home waits for them. This year, I wanted everything to be perfect. 3 days before Christmas, I tied my old apron around my waist, the same faded one my late husband, Robert, used to tease me about, and began cooking with the excitement of a young girl. The kitchen became my world. Pots simmered quietly, the oven hummed, and every corner of the house slowly filled with a fragrance that felt like memory itself. I started with the roast, Robert's favorite. He used to stand behind me, stealing little bites of the marinade when he thought I wouldn't notice. Even now, when I mixed the ingredients, I almost felt his hands brush mine. Then I made Emma's childhood favorites. Honey butter rolls shaped like little knots, cranberry pie folded with orange zest, and the mint chocolate cookies she would sneak from the tray when she thought I wasn't looking. I smiled thinking of those days, her tiny hands, her messy hair, her laughter filling the house. I worked slowly, because these hands of mine don't move as fast anymore. But every dish I made carried a piece of me. When my back began to ache, I sat for a moment, remembering the years when Christmas morning meant Emma running down the stairs shouting, "Mom, is it ready yet?" Now she was grown, married, busy, but she promised she'd be here. She promised. By the second day, the dining table was dressed in its best. I ironed the tablecloth 3 times, polished the silver until it reflected the lights, and placed a small poinsettia in the center. I wrapped gifts carefully, my handwriting shaky but full of love. To Emma from Mom. To Daniel. To my sweet granddaughter Lily. On the 3rd day, I could barely sleep. I kept checking the clock, counting the hours. I imagined my granddaughter running to hug me, Emma saying she missed my cooking, Daniel insisting he'd help carry the dishes. I imagined us sitting together, not like strangers passing through each other's lives, but like a family again. Christmas morning came. I woke early, dressed in a red sweater Robert once said made me look festive enough to light the whole neighborhood. I looked at myself in the mirror. Older, yes, a little worn but hopeful. I placed the roast in the oven again to keep warm. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee. I kept checking my phone. No message yet, but that was fine. They were probably getting ready, dressing Lily in one of those adorable little dresses. At 11:42 a.m., almost exactly an hour before they were supposed to arrive, my phone finally rang. I smiled, wiping my hands on my apron before picking up. "Hi, Mom," Emma said casually, as if it were any ordinary day. "Listen, we're celebrating at Daniel's parents' house this year. They already started preparing. We'll come by next week, okay?" For a moment I couldn't speak. I stared at the table set for 5, at the steam rising from the roast, at the gifts waiting with ribbons tied neatly. My voice trembled. "You're not coming?" "Mom, don't make this a big deal," she sighed. "We'll see you soon." And just like that, the call ended. The house fell quiet again. No laughter, no footsteps, just the ticking of the old clock on the wall. 3 days of cooking. 3 days of memories. 3 days of hope. And all of it forgotten. I didn't move for a long time after the call ended. I just stood there, one hand still holding the phone, the other resting on the edge of the table, as if I needed the wood to steady me. The roast smelled rich and warm. The rolls were golden. The cranberry pie gleamed under the kitchen light. And yet everything suddenly felt cold. Slowly, I lowered myself into the chair at the head of the table, the one I always saved for myself simply out of habit. The candles I had lit flickered gently, mocking the silence that filled the room. It wasn't just the quiet of an empty house. It was the quiet of being forgotten. Again, I folded my hands and stared at the place settings. 5 plates. 5 glasses. 5 sets of cutlery. I imagined the empty chairs filled by the people I loved, imagined laughter, imagined Lily tugging at my sleeve asking for more cookies. But imagination was no substitute for presence. A familiar ache rose in my chest, one I had felt 1,000 times over the years, the ache of a mother who gives endlessly and receives crumbs in return. It wasn't always like this. My mind drifted back to the years when Emma was small. I worked double shifts some weeks, cleaning houses in the morning, stitching clothes at night, just so she could go to school with new books. I skipped meals so she wouldn't notice the fridge was half empty. When she broke her arm at 13, I spent nights sleeping on a tiny hospital chair, so she wouldn't wake up alone. Everything I did, every decision I made, revolved around her. But after she married Daniel, things changed in small, painful ways. At first it was little excuses. Mom, we'll come next weekend. Sorry, Daniel's parents planned something already. We're a little busy, maybe next time? Then those next times became rare, then non-existent. I kept telling myself it was normal, that children grow up, that she had her own family now. But deep down I knew the truth. I was becoming an obligation, a stop on a list, something convenient only when scheduled far in advance, and when no one else claimed their time. And then there was that memory, the one that resurfaced now, stinging sharper than ever. Months ago, I had stopped by Emma's home unannounced with homemade soup because she had mentioned Lily had a cold. I stood outside their door hearing voices inside. Emma's laughter, Daniel's voice, Lily playing. Then I heard Daniel say, "Your mom is getting too dependent. We need boundaries. I don't want her thinking she can come by any time." Emma had quietly agreed. I remember walking away that day without knocking, clutching the soup against my chest, pretending the steam didn't blur my eyes. Now, sitting alone at my Christmas table, I finally understood what that conversation really meant. My daughter wasn't simply busy. She wasn't forgetting accidentally. She was choosing not to be here, choosing other people, choosing her husband's family, choosing convenience over loyalty, choosing distance over love. A knot tightened in my throat. I lifted my fork, not because I was hungry, but because eating alone seemed like admitting defeat. But the food felt too heavy to swallow, as if the weight of disappointment had settled on my tongue. One more Christmas alone. One more reminder that my presence had become optional, replaceable, unwanted. But as the clock ticked, something inside me changed. Not a sudden spark, but a slow awakening, like a curtain being pulled open after years of dimness. I looked around at the house I had built with my own hands, paid for with years of sweat and sacrifice. The house Emma assumed would one day be hers. She never said it out loud, but I knew she counted on it. And for the first time, I questioned why. Why give everything to people who gave nothing back? Why leave my life's work to someone who couldn't even give me one afternoon of her time? The loneliness hurt, but the clarity that grew from it was sharp, bright, empowering. I had been forgotten, but I was not powerless. Not anymore. I didn't sleep much that night. The house felt too quiet, too large, too hollow. Every room echoed with memories, birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas mornings filled with wrapping paper and joy. But life was no longer made of shared moments. It was made of lonely ones. Yet somewhere between midnight and dawn, a sense of calm settled over me. Not acceptance. No. I wasn't ready to accept being treated like a forgotten ornament stored away on a dusty shelf. It was clarity, clear as winter frost, sharp as truth. By sunrise, I had already made up my mind. I dressed slowly, choosing the navy coat Robert once said made me look too dignified to argue with, and stepped outside. The cold air hit my face, crisp and biting, but refreshing. My cane clicked rhythmically against the pavement as I made my way toward the bus stop. I was going to see my lawyer. The lobby smelled of papers and stale coffee, a smell I had associated with serious beginnings and painful endings. Mr. Collins, my attorney for nearly 20 years, raised his eyebrows when I walked in. "Mrs. Hale," he said gently, "I wasn't expecting you." "No one expects anything from me anymore," I replied, my voice steady. "But today things change." I sat across from him and slid my old will across the desk. He opened it, adjusted his glasses, and looked up. "You want to make changes?" "Yes," I said. "I want to remove my daughter from it completely." He didn't look shocked. Perhaps age brings fewer surprises, but he leaned forward slightly. "Are you certain? It is a significant decision." I smiled sadly. Significant decisions come from significant pain. He nodded, understanding more from the tone of my voice than the words. Over the next hour, we drafted a new will. My house, the one Robert and I had built piece by piece, would no longer go to Emma. Instead, it would go to a women's shelter I volunteered at years ago. Those women had listened to me, appreciated me, confided in me. They never made me feel like an obligation. Mr. Collins looked it over. This is final. Once signed. I know, I said. That's the point. When I left the office, the winter sun was setting, dipping the sky into a soft orange glow. For the first time in years, I felt light, as if the burden of waiting for someone who would never come had finally lifted. But I wasn't finished. Revenge doesn't need to be loud to be effective. Sometimes it only needs to be true. The next day, I picked up the phone and called Emma. Sweetheart, I said gently. I'd like you and Daniel to come over for lunch this weekend. I want to make up for Christmas. I've prepared something important. Her voice lit up instantly. Oh, sure, Mom. We'll be there. Daniel said he feels bad about the other day. Of course he did. They probably imagined a table full of food waiting for them. The kind of effort I always offered, the kind of love I always poured without measure. But this time they wouldn't find a feast. They would find the truth. Saturday arrived. They came late as always. Daniel held a store-bought cake. Emma offered a half-hearted smile. Mom, we're so sorry about Christmas, she said, placing her purse on the chair as if she lived here. It's fine, I lied, but my heart was calm. Come siete. They glanced at the table surprised. No disches. No decorations. No quorums. Just one envelope lying neatly in the center. What's this? Daniel asked. My will. I replied softly. I thought you should see it now, so there are no misunderstandings later. Emma blinked, confused at first. Then she opened the envelope. As her eyes scanned the pages, the color drained from her face. Mom, what is this? Her voice cracked. You removed me? Yes, I said, folding my hands. And now, my dear, you finally know how it feels to be left out. There was nothing cruel in my tone. Nothing angry. Only truth. The sweetest kind of revenge. For a moment, the room was completely still. So quiet I could hear the soft hum of the old refrigerator in the kitchen. Emma held the papers with trembling hands, her eyes darting across every line as though she hoped the words would magically change. Daniel stood behind her, stiff and speechless, a faint flush creeping up his neck. Mom, you can't be serious, Emma whispered. I've never been more serious in my life, I replied, sitting upright, my voice calm but firm. I spent 75 years giving. Now I'm choosing peace over pain. Her eyes glistened. But why? Why would you do this? I let out a long breath, one that felt like it had been trapped in me for decades. Emma, I said gently, you didn't forget Christmas. You forgot me. She flinched as if the word struck her. Daniel opened his mouth to speak, but I held up a hand. No. Please. Let me finish. And for once, just once, she listened. You think this is about one holiday? I continued. It's not. It's about every canceled plan. Every promise broken. Every time you made me feel like I was asking for too much just by wanting to see you. Her tears finally spilled over. I didn't mean. But you did, I said softly. You meant every choice you made. And choices have consequences. Emma sank into the chair, covering her mouth. I felt a pang, not of regret but of memory. I remembered the little girl who used to cling to my leg when she felt scared, the girl who wrote, I love you, Mommy, on my birthday card with crooked letters. Somewhere along the line, life pulled her away, and she let it. I thought, she whispered. I thought you'd always be there. I thought I had time to make it up to you. I nodded slowly. I know. That's why I'm doing this now. Not to punish you, but to free myself. Daniel finally spoke, his voice low. But the house? The house is mine, I interrupted. And it will go to people who actually need it. Who value it. Who value me. I watched their faces descend into a mix of guilt, shock, and something else, realization. The kind that comes too late. Emma wiped her cheeks. Is there anything I can do? Anything to fix this? I hesitated.